always love that when I give money to the homeless because they always are spiritual. It's so awesome. It's like, you know what I mean? They always say, thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I was like, you're welcome, brother. Welcome, brother. We're in this together. See ya. This is... You see how easy it would have been for God to do what humanity did? You see how easy it would be for him to just have started over? And I think a lot of times we would like to... It's easier to have a theology that the world is just so evil and, well, there's just a small little percentage of us in the world that really love Jesus. And all those other people out there that think they're Christians, they really don't. Or the world is so evil and there's just a small percentage of us that are, even if it's just, dividing ourselves from humanity. The world is so evil, and man, wouldn't it be great if everybody was just like we are at Upper Room? Right? You know what I mean? If all New York could just be under our jurisdiction. And all of a sudden you start realizing, man, you didn't flip us over. You didn't try to start over. You didn't eradicate evil. You could have never had to hurt God. You would have never had to be rejected. You could have started over. You could have said, none of this free thinking stuff. I'm going to make robots that'll worship me. I'm going to make robots that'll serve me and talk about me the way I want to be talked about. But he didn't. He didn't flip it over, and he's not going to flip it over. He's not going to flip over the boat. He's not going to flip. I know this is like, oh my gosh, you're preaching heresy because everybody. No, I'm preaching the truth. I'm preaching the truth. I mean, I really am. I'm preaching the Bible. Read the Bible and show me if God really wanted to just flip it over, he could have done it. So now some young punk gets up and decides he wants to come up with, I'm talking young, like 60 years old you could be, and you're still young punk to God. Some young punk stands up and says, I got it. I know what's going to happen. That's why we live in a day now, right, where it's end times and blah, blah, blah. We need to be all afraid and very afraid. Be very afraid. Be very afraid. Because it's all evil. It's all evil out there. It's all evil, and we're the purity. We're the pure ones. Really? Really? Pure? Totally pure? No, we're just like all of them. We're just like the rest of y'all. We're just like the rest of you all. And that has always been the desire of God for the purpose of the people of God, is that we would become a place not that imputes or blames the world for the transgressions of the world, but that we would be a place that fesses up to the sins of humanity. And what is the deepest sin of humanity? Is it homosexuality? Is it drug addiction? Is it alcoholism? Is it pride or arrogance? Well, a little bit, maybe pride. Maybe pride is the bigger one of all of them. But I don't think even that's the big one. You know what the biggest thing is? Distance from God. The biggest one for all of us is that we distance ourselves from God, and then we blame him for the distance. His ways offended us. So we in our mind and in our culture and in our churches, we flip the boat over on him, and we almost act and live as though he's dead. I got my Jesus, you got your Jesus. You got your Jesus, I got my Jesus. And my vision of Jesus, my idea of who Jesus is, if I don't submit my idea of who Jesus is to the person of Jesus, if I don't flip from just believing to faith, because they're not the same. We are the mystery in the earth. We're the ones that are supposed to say, we behold the resurrection. Every day we should be constantly, oh, are you kidding? My brother my brother was on drugs his whole life. I never did drugs. My brother went to jail. I was in church choir. And all of a sudden, he's at the table. And this is what Jesus says to me. Look into his eyes, Jason. You think this is so funny, this whole Barack Obama, George W. Bush thing? That's funny to you? Oh, I've got somebody for you that I invited to the table. It's your brother. Did you give up on your brother? Take a good look, Jason. You see him there? Uh-huh. Look in my eyes, Jason. Look in his eyes. Don't they look a little bit familiar? Do you see me in his eyes? Are you ready to ask for forgiveness? Wait a minute. My brother would come home drunk and beat the crap out of me and my mother. I don't owe him an apology. Really, Jay? Really? Really? You really don't? You really don't? That's right. He's the sinner and you're the saint. And you can stay this way as long as you like, Jay. As long as you like. You can stay this way as long as you like. But one day, you're going to see that I'm so much bigger and so much more alive in all of this. And you're going to see that it's really better to forgive and to see me in even what you think is unforgivable. And if you can see my eyes and love your enemy or love whatever, he's my brother, he's not my enemy, but you can look in the eyes of your brother, you can look in the eyes of your enemy, and you can see the Lord. You are one holy person. Now, I'm working on it. I'm not holy yet. But I did realize, John, will you forgive me? Will you forgive me for my foolish pride? Will you forgive me for my arrogance? Jesus, in John, will you forgive me because I gave up on you? And I feel like that's the sense that we have not only towards others, but we also have this sense that God's that way toward us. And maybe because we have that sense that God's that way toward us, we have that kind of sense and way, that sense toward others. Like I remember when I was a kid growing up, it was almost like I never did drugs, I never smoked pot, well, that's drugs, okay. I never did alcohol, I never had sex, all these things. And what would happen is, and maybe some of you, this has happened to somebody else, you'd be in these meetings and some other guy would come up and they did all those things. Terrible things. And then all they had to do was say a prayer and it was all gone. It was just like, yes, Lord, forgive me, I've sinned. Sorry about that. You're forgiven, brother. Hallelujah. Bless the Lord. Well, to me, it was just like, wait a minute.